So from what I've heard, he went to see Butch Harmon, which to me is not a great sign when you're tinkering this close to a major.
Wow.
That's supposed to be a secret, but since it's my debut on the Mayo show, I'll share that.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Use code MAYO right now at Underdog Fantasy. Get yourself a deposit match of up to $100. And if you use code MAYO right now, you might get a very special gift. Masters Week up on Underdog, a potential free square just for using code Mayo. So highly recommend that you do it. Additionally, the major season best ball drafts are still on the go. The Albatross is not even close to full. It's guaranteed money. There's $50K to first place. I've been doing drafts every single night, so I'll continue to tweet out when I'm doing it. If you want to get in the lobby and try to draft with me, I hope that I stop getting pick number 5, because that's no fun. Pick number 1, where you can take Scotty Scheffler, much more fun than having pick 5. And you're like, I don't know, Hideki maybe? It used to be Hovland, but he's fallen way down the ADP. Anyway, get in on code Mayo. Even if you don't live in a pick'em state where that is legal, you still can do the drafts on Underdog. So I highly recommend that you do that. And if you want to get the 2-for-1 at Fantasy National, this is the week. Wait till Wednesday. Get yourself the weekly. Go to fantasynational.com/Mayo. Get 20% off. You get 2 tournaments, including the Masters, for the price of 1. Would highly recommend it. And then you get access to the leaderboard app as well. And you most definitely want the leaderboard app. Let's bring them in to talk about the best bets for the Valero Texas Open and LIV Miami, if that's where anyone wants to go. First up, joining us from the future across the pond. I mean, you already know the tee time, Steve Bamford, don't you?
I don't think they're out just yet, but it will be fairly soon, yeah.
Do you do much in a week like this where I know it was only the 1 year, it was 2015, where one side got absolutely wiped out because of the wind? Does that cause you to hold back a little bit with all your bets at this tournament, or you're just like, yeah, whatever?
I'm one of these guys that has to be out at the crack of dawn on a Monday. So my bets they've flown over 24 hours ago. So I'm actually now, like so many of us, prepping for the Masters.
Matt Vincenzi, sir, it is your first time on the show. Been trying to, I think I asked you like 2 years ago to come on. You're like, I don't have a camera. And I was like, all right, well, nothing we can do about that. But now look at you. You look amazing. How didn't you have a camera? Handsome fella.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And this is like Christmas Eve for me last night. This is my favorite show to listen to all year long. I listen to all the different sports, and I love you, Jeff, and Cuss. So this is kind of surreal for me coming on here. I'm really excited to do it.
Well, I mean, no one hits more winners in like the past 18 months than you do. So we need to get some of that shine back on the show. Although Jeff did hit a winner. That was nice. Did you have Jaeger last week? Because I most certainly did not.
I did not. I'm not a Jaeger guy, so I can't really fault myself for not having it. If you don't bet him all the time, you shouldn't have bet him last week, and I don't. So is what it is.
All right. Well, let's jump into. Actually, I'm going to jump into LIV Miami for my gold selection this week. Matt and I were just talking about like what are some top 5 odds before the show. But Steve, I want to get your take on this. I know how closely you're following LIV, but it's a market where I can make some money. So hopefully I can do that. I'm going with Paul Casey, who's playing some good golf right now. He is, I had it written down, and now I don't have it written down. Where is he here? Plus 180 to finish inside the top 10 on LIV this week. He's reeled off a bunch of top 10s on LIV, and the last time he played on the Asian Tour, he should have won that event and then didn't against a bunch of jabronis, but he still finished inside the top 10. That's all I'm looking for here. And even in the last time he played Durrell, 8 years ago, he finished inside the top 10. He doesn't get to go to Augusta next week. Winning here or having a nice result will just continue the good form that he's in right now. So I like Paul Casey.
Understand that. Did well the other week in Singapore, I believe. Top 5, something like that. I know my colleague Paul Williams was on him that particular week. He was right up in the mix. So I can understand that. Casey, an excellent player. Can I back you in terms of the gold selection and LIV? This may sound a little bit freaky, but I think Dustin Johnson this week is an absolutely fantastic bet. I really do. 16 to 1 in the UK, LIV Golf Miami, Blue Monster at Trump Doral. And you just listen to how he's actually done at Trump Doral, the Blue Monster over the recent times. Second in 2011, he was first after 54 holes. Fourth in 2014, first in 2015, 14th in 2016, second after 54 holes. And if we know one thing about DJ, always likes to play his very, very best golf on an outing before hitting a major. If you actually look at the 2 major victories at the US Open and also at the Masters when that was played in November, was absolutely bang on the money arriving at those 2 majors where he actually triumphed.
Matt, I bet DJ at 15-1 to win this week, so I'm completely on board with this.
Yeah, I came into the week thinking it's one of 3 guys, Bryson, Brooks, or DJ. And DJ's tough to argue with. All those, I love him at Doral. He loves the golf course. My gold pick was Bryson top 5, 2-1. I wanted something that I thought was, really likely to hit for my gold pick. And for Bryson there, it feels like the one course this season on LIV where he can actually unleash driver on almost every hole. And we all know he's one of the best at doing that. He was shot 5 under here in the team final last year on the individual scoring day. And one thing that I really liked about it was Dural's a Gil Hanse design, and some other Gil Hanse designs. You have Winged Foot, where he won the U.S. Open. You also Jeff Ogilvy won at Winged Foot and Doral, so I think Bryson's a guy who can do that. Ridgewood Country Club in New Jersey, where he won the Northern Trust, is a Gil Hanse design. So I just think that this course sets up perfectly for him. He's already won in a big boy golf course in Florida at API. And he's one of the guys who hasn't won yet, right? DJ, I liked him a lot, but he won a couple weeks ago. Doesn't mean he can again, but I think maybe it's Bryson's turn this week.
Okay, so this is not where I was expecting to go with the Valero Texas Open best bets, a round of LIV bets for the sweep here. Steve, what do you make of DJ for the Masters next week? Because I've seen him as low as like 45-1, maybe even 50-1 in some spots right now. And I bet this guy like every year, except for the year he won, obviously, at Augusta. And he just lets me down. And not that he lets me down like he plays poorly. It always feels like he never has even the year Tiger won, and I had money on him, I think he hit all 18 greens in regulation. It was like 2 under. Like it sucks betting on him sometimes.
I get sucked into these things, but I took a lot from Full Swing season 2. And comments from him about how he clearly didn't work very hard in 2023 on his game, enjoyed the money, blah, blah, blah. But you could see it was starting to bite, that he wasn't being competitive in majors last year. And I think for him, that win in Las Vegas earlier this year will have done him the world of good. I think he targeted that potentially. And I just do like the fact that the week before a major, he has a history of really hitting his straps, really, putting the foot, the throttle to the floor and seeing what game's there. He's a very momentum-led player. My concern this week is that I really would like to get involved with him, say 33-1, 35-1 or above at the Masters next week. And I know how this works. You like a player, then all of a sudden they do well the week before and their prices are absolutely slashed. So I genuinely think that Dustin Johnson has got a major, major chance this week to win on Doral, yeah, for sure.
What do you make of DJ's prospects next week at Augusta, Matt? Is he someone that if he is 45-1, you see him sitting there, you're just like, yeah, might as well go for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like Steve said, I completely agree. He's a momentum form guy. So if he plays really well this week, he can parlay it into a good week next week. And I'm a little concerned that if he does go to 40-45, that I might be forced to bet it, because I do like it at that number. And I agree with Steve, 35 under, I'm not really interested, but if it gets higher. And part of my concern here is I don't want to look like I'm, this LIV guy at the Masters, because my card's going to be a lot of LIV players. But it just feels like on the PGA Tour, there's not many guys playing well enough to beat Scotty Scheffler. I mean, if you could argue anybody, Hideki is playing really well, and the stats are all there, and I'm thrilled with how he's playing. He could do it, but it almost feels like it's going to be Scotty versus LIV.
It does have that sense, but I think that Augusta can be a true equalizer in terms of that. Like, I bet on Theegala to win the Masters, because I just feel like he has. We kind of talked a little bit pre-show about Bryson, the places where he plays. Well, you kind of pointed it out, Matt, as well. But like, Augusta doesn't feel like it's going to be one of those places. There's too much feel that goes into it. You can't just take out your calculator and be like, well, I need to hit this club this way, and it's going to go to here, and then I can putt from here. It's going to be perfect. Augusta doesn't really work like that. The uneven lies, scrambling out of the pine straw, having that touch around the green. And I'm coming out with my, the Mayo official world golf rankings, the unofficial world golf rankings later on this week. And it's funny when you start writing people up and anyone who's kind of done that exercise trying to come up with a little bio about how people are playing right now, I just looked at like what I wrote about Cam Smith, what I read about Jordan Spieth. It was so much the same of what I wrote about Theegala, except Theegala can actually drive the golf ball, Steve.
He can these days, yeah. He's really worked on that, hasn't he? You actually see his strokes gained off the tee numbers, even just the accuracy, the basic traditional stats. He has worked on that weakness. And he was always great from approach, shot, and in. Now, all of a sudden, the driving isn't holding him back. And it was amazing with Sahith. This is a difficult thing to achieve. A top 10 finish on your Augusta National debut. That's something that's pretty rarely achieved. And he clearly did that 12 months ago.
Is there anyone that you are like, besides just like LIV guys? I kind of agree with you too. And one of the weird things is you don't end up being a LIV homer, Matt, because you end up betting on LIV guys. Just the market has dictated that these guys just present more value than a lot of the PGA guys that people see week over week. Like that, I think, is the real reason if you're gonna take LIV guys to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember last year when I wrote my PGA Championship preview, and I loved Brooks and Bryson because that Northeast POA narrative that I think they're really great on. And I remember the comments after I posted my previews, like, of course you're picking a LIV guy. It's nothing to do with that. I care about winning money so much more than I care about the PGA Tour versus LIV thing. So yeah, I mean, so it does feel like the value's there. A lot of people got those Neiman numbers, 70, 80, which I got like last month before he was really in the field, or when he was announced that he was in the field. So I do think it could be that. And also it's almost like to win a major, and you're going to have to beat Scotty. Like whatever happens with Scotty, he will be there in some form or fashion. So to me, it feels like Brooks, DJ, Rahm, Cam Smith are the type of players who have that intestinal fortitude to face him down the stretch and be able to beat him. I don't know who on the PGA Tour right now you can say that about.
Stephen Yeager,
yeah.
Stared Scotty right in the eyes and said, "I'm taking this one from you, pal. All you need to do is miss some 3-foot putts, and we're good to go." Like, dude, because I bet on Scotty. Was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year to win the Masters, and like dude played great, Steve, the entire time, but he must have lost 8 strokes putting over 4 rounds. Like, is that completely like has he squashed that narrative because he had 2 great putting weeks? Like, are we certain that it's not just going to revert back to him being awful on the greens?
No, we're not certain. And I was talking about this on the Golf Betting System podcast this morning. It's a very, very strange betting year. The prices this year have just been amazing. I mean, I'm using UK prices over here. I'm not seeing a winner on the PGA Tour apart from Scotty Scheffler, who's been sub 50 to 1. And I include in that Jake Knapp at 50 to 1, and last week Stefan Jaeger 50 to 1. He was available at that price over here. So it's the craziest golf betting start to a year I've ever seen. And the question you've got to ask yourself this year is, there used to be a top 3, didn't there? There was clearly Scheffler, Rahm, Rory McIlroy. I don't think there is a top 3 anymore, especially not on the PGA Tour. There's just a number 1. And you've got to ask yourself, is Scotty just going to, clear up at Augusta and win the thing? Are you going to bet him win only and then build around that a card of deeper mid-price to longer price numbers around that on an each-way basis? Or do you just take him on? And do you just say, I'm actually going to go for, say a Brooks Koepka. Now, another thing, I'm really into my historical odds. So for the last 5 years at Augusta, I know this is a Valero, Texas show, but as I said, let's talk about the Masters. Tiger Woods 16 to 1, Dustin Johnson 9 to 1, Scotty Scheffler 16 to 1. That number still kind of gets me on the basis that he was in such hot form, but he'd never clearly won a major. John Rahm 9 to 1. That's 4 of the last 5 Masters winners at 16 to 1 or less. Then this is the interesting bit for me. Go back into history. Bubba Watson 28 to 1 the second time he won, same price as Adam Scott. Matsuyama, the biggest shock of the last 5 years, he was 45 to 1. Garcia 45 to 1. Reed 55 to 1. Bubba the first time 55 to 1, and then we're out to Danny Willett at 66s. So follow that narrative. The only other player I think might get sucked into that 16 to 18 to 1 price band, especially after this week if he plays well, would be a Brooks Koepka. So you might have a situation where it's Scheffler, McIlroy, Rahm, don't fancy him, defending champions at Augusta's a big no-no, and Brooks Koepka. So it's going to be those four in that 16 to 1 and under area. And then where can we find those juicy sort of 28 to 1 and bigger prices are, further out than that? And that's why I was so interested in Dustin Johnson. I've actually backed him already at 40 to 1. I managed to get onto Wyndham Clark a few weeks ago as well at 66 to 1. I know he's a debutant, but that's a big price for someone that's playing such top quality golf at the moment.
I plunged on Wyndham Clark as well, but I avoided the Masters, and I took him at 66 to 1 at each the U.S. Open and the PGA Championship right around the time of Pebble Beach. There are some players, and I think that Bryson is kind of the primo example of this, Matt, that it just seems like those two you can kind of connect together, especially since the PGA of America has really started to not necessarily take a page out of the USGA's book, but the past 5-6 years, the PGA Championship has been a very difficult event with the way that the setup has been, and it seems like they both kind of favor the same sorts of players now.
Extremely long drivers of the golf ball is the narrative, and Wyndham Clark at Valhalla this year. Yeah, I get that. Clearly his first win on the PGA Tour was at Quail Hollow, and if you want a real long classical golf course, you've got it there with Quail Hollow, and then of course he doubled up at LACC a couple of weeks later. So yeah, I get the narrative on Wyndham Clark for the PGA for sure.
The only guy I could see, Matt, breaching into that like sub 16 to 1 for the Masters with a good week would be if Spieth won this week.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't see him winning the Masters or winning this week, but to what Steve said, I completely agree with the Brooks thing. Like if you're that scared of Scotty Scheffler, the bet you should make right now is Brooks 20 to 1 because he's the guy who can do it. And if it's Scotty or if Scotty's not there, then that does bring other players into the fold who can win. But if you think he's there, then that Brooks 20 is probably the one you're looking at.
Do you think, and Matt, stick with the LIV thing for a second, because I know a lot of people you have the Neiman. I talked to Jeff yesterday. I think he has Neiman at 90 to 1 or 80 to 1 or something like that. I'm seeing him at 28 to 1. He's going to fall if he doesn't win at Doral this week. He'll end up being like 35 to 1, 40 to 1. But there is probably a big liability on Neiman at this point. Am I crazy to think he doesn't really have a chance to win the Masters?
I think he can. Because his kind of middle of the country bent grass greens is kind of what he does. And he did finish 16th there last year. And when I talked to him, when he told me that he got the PGA invite, he said the Masters is Augusta's one of his favorite courses. He said he came into the Masters last year, not even in form, and finished in a tie for 16th, wasn't even playing well at the time. And I think his style of game, he can hit those low stingers, work the golf ball both ways. I think he just sets up so well for Augusta. I think the greens are good for him. I've always viewed him as a Sergio Garcia type player, a younger Sergio, and that type of skill set. Sergio's has won the Masters. I just think it's a great golf course for him. And if he's in great form, and we've seen these players who are so hot coming into the Masters win. Rahm won 3 times before the Masters. Scotty won a couple of times before he came in. When DJ won in 2019, he had multiple wins. Neiman's won three times, right? The one was the Australian Open, but he's also won the 2 LIV events, which who knows what it means, but he is winning events coming into it, which has shown to be an indicator of success.
It's funny too, because like I'm trying to think like who the comps would be, because this is one of the things that I was working through when I was doing the golf rankings, like overall, because he has those 3 wins, obviously he's going to be elevated over people who haven't won. But if we just kind of take a look at how they've played, Steve, do you think that there's actually a huge difference at this moment between Neiman and someone like Cam Young?
Arguably, you'd say that Wacky Neiman would be higher ranked than Cam Young.
I have
Wacky actually wins golf tournaments.
Sure, but everyone, it's almost like I was thinking about Xander for the Masters as well. Only because when you retroactively look at some of these finishes that people have, they become a lot better looking once you get the win. It's like, oh, that was really obvious that Xander was going to win. He had top tens and 7 straight majors or something like that. Of course he was finally going to get one. Or you just turn into Lee Westwood and you end up, in obscurity somewhere. But retroactively, the stuff always looks really good once the win happens. And like when I was writing up Cam Young, it was just like, this guy just kind of finishes second every single time. He's constantly in it. Had a great debut last year. And obviously I'm going to have Neiman over Cam Young, and the odds will dictate that as well. Neiman's going to be a bigger favorite than Cam Young is, Matt. But I feel like Cam Young is another one of those guys. It's just like, if you want to be like, oh yeah, that actually kind of makes a lot of sense based on what he's done so far.
Yeah, but let's not forget that Neiman won at Riviera before he went to LIV against a loaded field by multiple strokes, and he fended off Hovland, Morikawa, who are really charging at him there. So, and we've seen that Riviera connection with the Masters as well, that I think maybe sets up for him that long classical test. So, yeah, I mean, I'll have Neiman over Cam Young because of that, and Young hasn't shown he can win. But I completely agree. I mean, everyone is a loser until they're not, and one day he won't be, and there's no doubt about it. He'll win something, and yeah. So I have Neiman above Young, but I do see the appeal in him.
Yeah, and just when we finally get to the odds, when they listen, if you're betting right now, a guy like Brooks, a guy like Dustin, players that could severely decrease their odds with a great performance this week, I think makes a lot of sense to bet right now. But if you don't have Masters bets in, you may as well just wait till Monday when they reset and you get guys 30 points better. Because these future markets, Steve, are terrible.
Well, they are, and also you're only getting, I mean, over here in the UK, we're only getting 6 places each way. Clearly, that can be 8, 10, 12 places as of Monday of next week. So you might as well wait to a certain extent. I mean, if Brooks won this week, what price do you see him going down to? I'm seeing over here prices, there's quite a liberal smattering of 20 to 1. What would that go down to? 14, something like that?
Yeah,
he won this week?
Yeah, I don't think that he would be less than Rahm. So I'd say the minimum he could be is 12, most likely 14 or 16.
Yeah.
He'd be the fourth favorite, yeah.
Yeah, he'd be that fourth favorite, and he would be that guy, as I said, that would be sucked into that 16 to 1 and under bracket. I think Koepka could be a very, very interesting angle next year. And I think he won, didn't he? He won on LIV the week or 2 weeks before he then went to Augusta and was clearly just flying, and as he said, just couldn't cope with the pressure on the Sunday with Jon Rahm. But with Rahm having the green jacket on his shoulders, that's just some kind of voodoo. McIlroy, who knows? You just don't know what you're getting with him. Koepka, for me, is the most likely of the bigger names to actually put up the real fight for Scottie Scheffler.
So Steve mentioned, Matt, that Dustin has the propensity to win the week before a major and ride that momentum into the major. Did you know, with a second place finish this week, that Rory will have completed the week before major Grand Slam of second place finishes?
Yeah, that's not surprising. I remember I think it was before the U.S. Open last year, where he was like penciled in as the winner. He was 6 or 7 to 1 because he had just won the previous week. And I'd said it feels obvious that Rory's going to win one of these majors, but it's felt this way in the past. And here his finishes each time that's happened. And it hasn't been all that good coming off a win into a major. So I don't know if that's helpful or not. I do want to add one thing about LIV Miami here. If you're into the majors in the world of golf and you care about golf as much as you can hate LIV, which is perfectly fine, you should be paying attention this week, because last year before the Masters, we saw Brooks win on a Florida course, was a dog track, but he won in Florida and then goes and contends at the Masters. Looks like he's going to win the thing. Reed, everyone says, where'd he come from? He finished 4th that week at that LIV Florida event. Phil played great at that event, and then he was T4 at the Masters. So if you care about golf, if you care about the majors, you should be paying attention to what's going on at Doral.
Yeah, I mean, I care about winning. And I did kind of mention on yesterday's show, like, I'm pumped for Doral because I like Doral, and then LIV gets Adelaide at the end of the month. You pay probably far more attention to LIV than anyone that I interact with, Matt. But this is the best 2-event run that they have during the course of their season, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited for this course because we've seen the team event in the past, which doesn't really, didn't really do it for me. But seeing these guys play one of my favorite courses that, I wish was still on the PGA Tour is really fun. And as someone who I have a future on Cam Smith, future on Neiman, I need to make one more final ad for the Masters. So I'm just so excited to see how guys are playing, because this is what they're gearing up for. Their whole off season, their whole schedule, the way they approached everything is to gear up for this week. So let's see how they did in doing that.
I just want to circle back one more Masters thing before we really dig into Valero here and get to the silver picks. I could talk about the Masters for ages. That's why I'm going to have like 30 shows coming out over the next 7 days or so. But in terms of Rory, Steve, doesn't it feel, I mean, this will probably end up being the shifted narrative, and obviously we don't know what he's going to do at Valero. If he wins, everyone's going to be on Rory again. Let's say Rory has like a crappy finish here. He's like T37 or something like that, or God forbid he misses the cut. Isn't this the best spot to bet Rory going into the Masters? Because everyone has just penciled him in to win the Masters each of the past 10 years or so. And this feels like finally the time that people are like calling Rory a loser now because he hasn't won a major in so long.
Yeah. I think if he doesn't find form this week, and as we know, he does like to win a golf tournament the week before a major. But this would be probably one of the years where he's been the least talked about in terms of actually winning the Masters. He's kind of be going there under the radar. You might even find that he'd actually be a bigger price than Jon Rahm, which is pretty crazy, really, thinking about it. But yeah, the trouble with Rory is he's pretty unfathomable, isn't he, from a betting perspective? The only thing that's great about Rory McIlroy on a consistent basis, and you know, this is just it's not rocket science, it's just back him first round leader, because you tend to get 20-1, 22-1 each and every week. And it tends to come in sort of every 3 to 5 to 6 times that he is actually first round leader. So, you know, first round leader this week, first round leader at Augusta. I know people that bet it just automatically, and it makes money.
That's interesting. I remember I did that I bet him to.
I think he's had 2 already this year, Pat.
Was he the first round leader at the Players this year? He was.
Yeah, and in Dubai, I believe.
Yeah. Did he end up winning in Dubai, or did he win the other one?
He won in Dubai, so, and then of course Players, he goes and shoots 75 or whatever the number was on the Friday. But yeah, he's just a first round leader sort of cash machine.
When I was doing up the rankings and we're trying to figure out where to slot Rory into this, Matt, it kind of be like, yeah, he doesn't have great form, but he also has a win this year, which most of the other top players don't have. And it kind of boiled down to one thing with me. It's kind of the same reason that I kept Rahm at number 2. It's like, I still have faith that he's going to be really good, despite the fact that he hasn't won since winning last year's Masters. And he's had some bad, I want to say, some bad Sundays where he's been in the lead-in spot. He got outdueled by fucking Tony Finau in Mexico last year. Like, what are we doing here with Rahm? And like the second place finish at the Open looks really good, but he had no chance to win that tournament. He backdoored a T2 when everyone got smoked by Harman. But there's never anything negative about Jon Rahm. It's just like, oh yeah, of course he's going to be fine. And he is going to be fine because he's that good. But with Rory, it kind of works the other way. But the thing I kept coming back to is that if Rory finishes in second, people think he sucks because he comes in second. I feel like that automatically makes him top 5 no matter what metric you use.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's never left my top 3 players in the world ever. People say the loser with the no major thing. I do think he wins one this year. I think he's going to win it at Pinehurst, but I don't love him for the Masters. I think there is a mental block there. I also think you have to be in great form coming in. And so from what I've heard, he went to see Butch Harmon, which to me is not a great sign when you're tinkering this close to a major. Wow. That's supposed to be a secret, but since it's my debut on the Mayo show, I'll share that. And he went to see Butch, and I think he's worried about those iron misses left, which is a problem. And we saw it crop up when he went in the water left a couple times at API, and then that stuck within the following few weeks. He's driving the golf ball really well, but then the fact that he rushes out to the first round lead at Sawgrass and then kind of falls back and doesn't do anything. I just think in order for him to overcome those demons, those mental hurdles, he has to be playing fantastic. And maybe that changes this week, but as of now, it doesn't look like he is.
You've heard me mention it before, but you need to go to Underdog Fantasy right now and use code Mayo to get yourself a deposit match of up to $100. And if you are a depositor, underneath code Mayo, you might have something very special coming for you Masters Week in terms of a free square once the tee times are released. So if there was ever an added bonus besides the 100% deposit match of up to $100, now is the time to use code Mayo to continue to get those benefits over at Underdog Fantasy. But the thing that we need to do right right now is head on over to the draft page at Underdog Fantasy and get into the $10 Albatross. $10 per entry, $50,000 to first place. It's only 16 rounds. The Masters, the PGA Championship, the US Open, and the Open Championship. You draft your team of 10 against 5 other people. Get in there now. You can do a fast draft. You can do a slow draft. And there is a ton of overlay at the moment right now. So even if you live in a state that doesn't have Pick'em legal to you, the drafts are. So use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now and go play in the $10 Albatross. All right? I'll see you in those streets every single night until the Masters starts. So you can come beat me. I'm like free money to draft again. So you might as well do that. Code Mayo at UnderdogFantasy.com right now. More details in the description. Let's jump into the silver selections for, I got a Valero one here. I'm going to take my guy. He finished inside the top 5 in Puerto Rico a few weeks back. I've just really been digging Eric Barnes, and I can get him plus 280 to be inside the top 40. I just need him not to putt himself out of a tournament because I have a bunch of guys at the back end of this tournament that I really like, and I don't know really what to do with. Like, I think I might end up biting the bullet on Kuchar in some sort of way. Maybe it's first round leader for him. He just constantly makes every putt at this course. I went back and watched last year's tournament and forgot that he hit it into like a cactus or some sort of weird plant on the last hole in the 3rd round when he was tied for the lead. Ended up double bogeying the par 5. But other than that, he played really well. And we've seen glimpses of it, even at the first round of the Players, when people like were kicking themselves after 6 holes when he was 5 under. I think he finished the day like 3 over or something like that because he kept going in the water. But we've seen enough of these old dudes just kind of pop up out of nowhere this year that Kuchar was one of them. I continue to like Bud Cauley, especially when we're in Texas. His tee to green game has been so good. But Eric Barnes, Matt, is going to be my top 40 selection at plus 280.
I like it. I was on Cooch outright last year, so thanks for reminding me about that double bogey on the par 5. But to build back on your point with Cooch too, this is an old guy course, right? This is an old guy course where guys, you can be old and kind of pop up here and play really well. So I like that Barnes play, and mine's a similar mold as yours. Mine is Ryan Moore, top 20, plus 450. I love Ryan Moore this week. I think he has a real chance to win. I think he's going to contend. I was hoping last week he stayed under the radar, but still played well because he is just absolutely lights out on approach right now. The proximity numbers that matter this week, his last 24 rounds, he's second in proximity between 125 and 150. He's 13th between 100 and 125, and he's second in total proximity behind Ludwig Aberg for his last 12 rounds. So I just think he's playing so well. Now this golf course should suit him more than that long, brutal track in Houston last week. So I got the Moore top 20 plus 450.
What did you make of that course last week, Steve? I really liked it. I think I'm glad that it's back on like the regular schedule. I would like to see a strong field take on that course.
I've never seen statistically such a balanced golf course as Memorial Park. It's crazy, where I think Jaeger won with a higher strokes gained putting overall number than what he gained from tee to green. I mean, that's incredibly weird on the PGA Tour. Great fact this week, of course, we're playing Valero, we're playing TPC San Antonio. This is Team No Putt. Team No Putt is in full effect this week. But I quite enjoyed the course. It was interesting that you've got, clearly a player at such an elite level as Scotty Scheffler, who couldn't pull himself away from the chasing pack of people like David Skins, Alessandro Tosti, Stefan Jaeger. That just showed you what an incredibly well-balanced course that was, where if you had a hot putter and you were making big putts, you weren't losing ground at all to the most elite stroke gain tee to green player on the planet right now. I enjoyed the setup. I thought it was interesting. I had Taylor Moore came in second. I also had Scheffler came in second, but that's just the way it rolls with me, I'm afraid. I do like a second place.
Yeah, I had Taylor Moore as well. I mean, if he just doesn't put it in the water on 16, all of a sudden we got a different, or he doesn't miss that eagle putt on 3, or doesn't miss that 3-foot putt on number 9. It really, when you retroactively go back and look at it, I mean, people can say, they're like, oh, well, Finau missed this putt, and Finau missed this putt. He also fucking chipped in on 4 when everyone else was making bogey. So let's not forget that part of it as well. Yeah, he lost 3 strokes putting, gained like 7 around the greens because he kept chipping in. It was like Carl Wan the week before at the Valspar. It's like, how is this happening? Either way, Steve, you got a silver pick.
Can I join you two on team sort of old player?
Yeah.
And I have never met Matt in my life, so we have not conversed in any shape or form here. But I am also on Ryan Moore. He was my most comfortable player to back this week by a long, long way. I keep strokes gained, tee to green, and skill set rankings across 8 weeks, very short window. And Moore is top 5 in that and top 25 for tee to green at the moment. And you just look at what he's done here already on this course. 8th in 2012, 18th in 2017, 7th in 2018, and 3rd in 2019. This is the kind of course for me that, agreeing with Matt again, that course last week, Memorial Park, was the complete antipathy of what Ryan Moore likes, because it was grip and rip and a hot putter, and you were right at the top of the leaderboard. That is not Ryan Moore. As we know, team no putt, but an absolutely ballistically good approach game. This course is right up his street because short but straight does gain you strokes off the tee. So when he was 7th in 2018 here, he was 14th for off the tee, 4th for approach, 7th for tee to green. And then last time he contended here, 3rd in 2019 behind Connors and Chuck Hoffman, 15th for off the tee, 5th for approach, 6th for tee to green. So he's available over here in the UK right now, still at 125 to 1, which for me is a fantastic each way punt. So he's my silver bet of the week, Ryan Moore.
Ryan Moore, 125 to 1?
Yeah, over here in the UK, yes.
I like it. Okay, so other guys right now, ball striking wise, to shrink down the sample to the past 12 rounds. Again, you can find all this very easily. FantasyNational.com/Mayo. Get yourself that 20% off. Do the weekly on Wednesday. Get Valero and the Masters into it, and you get the leaderboard app for this week as well, which, if you're someone who follows golf, you're going to want the leaderboard app because it's better than all of the other apps that you can use to track golf. You can see players multiple where they're at the course in real time. It's fantastic. But Ryan Moore is number 1 in ball striking, so combining off the tee and approach over the past 12 rounds of any player in this field. And then he got some very interesting names. I bet on Hideki to win. I actually cashed out because I saw the winds moving. I had him at 20 to 1, but I saw him drop on DraftKings before Bet365, so I cashed out the 20. He's at 21 right now. I'll use my 30% boost to get him up to like 28 to 1 on Wednesday. But Ryan Moore, Keith Mitchell, Joel Damon, Hideki, Austin Eckroat are the top 5 past 12 rounds in ball striking, Matt. Then you have Connors, who's won here twice, Rico Hui, Bhatia, Noren, and Aaron Rai. Bhatia has now gained. He lost 2.2 strokes on approach round 1 at the Valspar. He's now gained in 7 straight. I'm trying to think of what will cost me the most money at the Masters, and it would be Bhatia winning this week and me betting on him way too much at Augusta. So I think he might win.
Oh, man. I absolutely love Akshay this week. I was on him outright last week, and that was kind of a heartbreaker. I was really, really excited when he took the lead after he made that nice uphill 14-footer on 8 to take the outright leads, Scheffler bogeys. And then the next shot is he gets himself in that tough spot in the bunker on 9, the hole where everyone was getting within 15 feet. So that was kind of heartbreaking, but I'm one of the biggest Akshay guys around. 4 years ago, I wrote a Players to Watch for the Future piece, and he was my number 1. I've been following him really closely for a long time. Probably one of my favorite golfers on the PGA Tour. So I absolutely love him. I was kind of surprised to see that 55, 60 to 1 number this week after he gained over 7 strokes on approach last week. And he's long and straight with the driver, man. It's hard not to fall in love with his golf game.
Well, that leads us to my bronze selection, Steve. It is Akshay Bhatia, top 20 this week. Every time he's made the cut so far in 2024 on the PGA Tour, he has finished inside the top 20.
He's so consistent. That's one thing you can say about Akshay, isn't he? The consistency there. There is multiple top 17 finishes. And I think he's had a couple of top 10s in the win, hasn't he? I think he was top 10 the week before. He then won at I know it as the Reno Tahoe. It's the Barracuda Championship, isn't he? But there's no doubt with Akshay Bhatia, I think he's the kind of guy that's going to make it. Well, he's going to be top 30 elite in the world. I think it's just he's got such a consistent, fantastic off the tee game and approach game, and can be spotty with the putter. But that's most putters, most players. But yeah, I think Bhatia, this course is sure to suit as well. To be fair, most courses tend to. He's that kind of overall brilliant player.
He's gained off the tee in every start since last year's Wells Fargo Championship, which
Wow.
which is not bad. And now he's gained 4 straight on approach and really spiked last week. Hopefully we didn't miss the boat on that one because his around the green game is not great. So, but it kind of works two ways. Like Connor's around the green game is not great, but if you just hit every green in regulation, you never have to chip. And this does feel like one of the courses, Matt, where he can get away with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll piggyback on that for my bronze pick. And this has been steamed to hell, which I hate. But Billy Horschel, top 20 plus 160. I mean, I don't see any way, and please bet responsibly, DraftKings, that Billy Horschel doesn't finish in the top 20 with the way he's playing right now. And when he plays well, he shows it coming, and he's showing it coming big time. Last week again was almost similar to Moore. I liked him last week, but it felt like that golf course that wasn't right for him, and he still stormed that leaderboard, which blew his cover for me this week in the on the betting board. But he's great at this golf course. He's won twice in Texas. He beat Scotty at the Dell match play in Texas. He's putting the ball great. I think he's a guy who is motivated to try to get in the Masters with a win. I don't see any way that he's not involved this week.
I tend to agree, Steve. I just the odds got crushed before I could get to it, so then I just kind of passed. When I was seeing Billy Horschel at the same odds as Colin Morikawa, I was like, well, I know one guy's playing better, but I know one guy's actually better. So maybe I'll just not bet on both of them and go a little bit farther down the board. Was kind of how I did. Because you got the 45, right, Matt, when it opened?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Yeah, so like that makes a lot more sense than being like 30-1 on Billy Horschel. Yeah, I'm not too certain that I want to start backing that one when I can get Hideki at like 22 or something. So that leaves me some pause. So where did you want to go with your bronze, Steve? Was it the same sort of range, a top 20, a top 30, or are you just going to try to storm the board here? Let's get a win.
I managed to get. I'm on Horschel as well each way. 8 places, I managed to get a 35-1. So the Billy train, let's hope that isn't derailed. I've got 2 angles here for my bronze. Is that kind of breaking the whole sort of structure of the show, Pat?
If they win, people will be happy. So the more winners you got, the better off we are.
I've got a bloody obvious one and a not so obvious one. So let me take you through the not so obvious one. I've got Max Grayserman. Now, again, across my 8-week statistics, this guy is top 25 on approach, top 15 for tee to green, and top 10 for strokes gained total. That's a pretty significant number. That includes, I believe, a 14th it was a 15th he got in Puerto Rico. So 47th at the Cognizant, 15th in Puerto Rico, 33 Valspar, 7th last week at Houston. Now, if you look at Grayserman and you just look at his short career, he's had 2 top 10s in Texas and 2 top 20s across clearly PGA Tour and the Corn Ferry. He was 3rd here after the end of Thursday when they played the 2020 Corn Ferry event here. So for me, he's the kind of player who might be able to kind of snag some kind of each way place, 125-1 over here in the UK. I don't think 90-1 first round lead is a bad bet, considering he was 3rd in that market when the Corn Ferry played here in 2020. And also there is a 9-2 hanging there, top 20 bet. So I don't know what the best kind of angle of attack is, but I think Max Grayserman is someone that you could well keep an eye on this week and could potentially get you some profit in one of those markets. If we're going to literally get a brick, bang it over the back of the head, I just think Ludwig Åberg could well win his 2nd PGA Tour title this week. Got a Texas background. We know that he played for the Red Raiders golf team at Texas Tech in Lubbock, which is relatively close by in Texas. When he was playing at Texas Tech, 2 big amateur victories down there. One was El Paso, I believe. He also won the 2022 Big 12 conference that they play at Trinity in Texas. Interestingly enough as well, at the Cabo Collegiate they play here, he finished 3rd individually in 2022 on the Oaks course itself. And that kind of backs up what he did before he won the RSM Classic at the end of last year. I know that he'd won an amateur event on the island there before he smashed that as 12-1 favourite. I just get the feeling with Ludwig, he's so early into his professional career. He's never played in a major as a professional. So he must be walking into this not kind of knowing what to do or how to play. Is he just priming himself for Augusta next week? Or I just get the feeling with him, he'll turn up and play as brilliantly as he has been in 2024. And I do fancy him to win. I'm on at 14-1. There was a little bit of 16-1 on Monday. He's been well backed over in the UK, currently 12-1. So I'm going to just go Ludwig Oberg for the win this week.
Okay, I'm seeing a 13-1 right here, so you can have 13-1 for your bronze pick on the show. There's a few other guys that we talk about team no putt and ball striking, especially in the short term. There are a few names that I want to throw at you because I just saw when I was looking it up. Where the hell did he go? Where's Gracerman? Over the past 12 rounds in my model right now. So I have a course model and a recent form model. Gracerman 17th in the course model and 15th of all players in the actual statistical model this week. Other than that, I got like Eckroat still continues to rate out really, really well. The ball striking hasn't gone anywhere for Austin Eckroat. It's always just kind of the putting that lets him down, but this is the team no putt week. There's another guy at triple digits who's already won this year. Matty Schmidt continues to play really, really good golf. Chandler Phillips rates inside the top 15 right now. If he could just hit some fairways, I think that he'd be super live. There's Gracerman. Like Gracerman's a spot ahead of Bezadenhout, Batia, and Victor Perez, another guy who is just kind of riding in some recent form. Matt, do any of those names like strike as like, maybe I could back them, maybe not to win, or maybe you do want to back them to win in 2024. Who knows? They should probably be like 8-1 based on the fact that these triple digits keep winning. But like as a top 40, as a to make the cut, like try to get some sort of investment in these guys that are super long odds.
I feel like Cam Stewart. I need a bunch more minerals. We need some Bitcoin mineral or something like that, because none of the guys you mentioned that I'm overly high on, but I have to say you misspoke at the beginning of the show when you called it the Valero Texas Open. This is called the Charlie Hoffman Open. He has 12 top 15 finishes at this golf course, including a win. And I'm on him again this week. I got 200-1 early. It's got bet down a little bit. The top 40, I think it's plus 150 that I really, really like. And he showed earlier this year that if he goes back to a course that he loves, like he did at TPC Scottsdale, he has the game still to compete. And he came in here in horrible form a couple of years ago and finished in the top 20. I just think he can come here blindfolded, put that green glove on, and play really well. And he lost, missed the cut at the Valspar, but he did gain a couple strokes on approach in only his 2 rounds that he played. So I think he's ready to go this week.
Yeah, since gaining over 7 strokes on the greens at Scottsdale, he's dropped on the greens in 4 straight, which is kind of going back to what he was the past 2 years. Like you'd see these incredible, like even at the Wyndham last year, he gained I think 11 strokes tee to green and then just gave it all away on the greens. And that's what he's been doing. That when we take a look at what he's done at Valero, Steve, over the years, I mean, obviously he's had the really, really good run. But, he has some of these spike putting weeks that we don't normally see from him. Obviously he got the win here. He gained 6 that week. He has another with 5, another with 4, another with 6, another with 6. Something about these greens he loves.
Charlie Hoffman in Texas. It's just always been the way. I was on him a few years ago when he finished second behind Jordan Spieth. So I actually got a very rare 1-2 that week here at the Valero. But yeah, Hoffman in Texas in general, outstanding. It's got to be probably this one and Scottsdale got to be probably the most successful course that he's had in his career. I'm still seeing Charlie Hoffman in the top 20 last 8 weeks for strokes gained on approach. So that approach play is still there. It's just, can he get the dots to attack, to actually link together in terms of his putting? And if it's going to happen anywhere, it's very likely to happen on the Oaks course because he's got such a great record here. So yeah, I love Matt's angle on that.
Yeah, Matt, despite being Ander cursed this week, Ben An just kind of seems like he has the perfect game. Do you worry that something is off with him? Like ever since he kind of got the buzz, like, oh, he should definitely be in the Masters. Oh, the win is coming. They didn't get the win. He's probably still going to get into the Masters based on world ranking, but the game went off the rails in Florida. Or do you just like write Florida off for some guys?
Well, for him, I usually like him in Florida, and he was one of the guys I was targeting. I was hoping, although I knew his odds are never fair, which makes him really tough to bet. I was hoping for a 55, 60 to 1 this week, and I would have done it, but he opened at like 30, 35. You just can't get a good number on him. And now that I saw Tim backed him, Tim, who I love, I'm glad that I'm not on him at all.
Yeah.
But I do think he'll play well. I mean, this golf course suits him perfectly. He's a great all-around game, good driver, good short game. So I do like him. I do like him this week. And with him, the stats never tell the full story. You never know when he's going to play well. He's kind of just that guy you can't really get down. So it doesn't really worry me too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing him at Bet365 right now. If you enhance his win up, he is 45 to 1, which is a much more generous. I think that's because Harris English crashed, Noren crashed, Horschel crashed, so someone had to come down. I saw Fleetwood at 38 to 1 this morning. I was like, well, Fleetwood's like 40 to 1 in majors. What the hell are we doing here? I mean, he's not going to win, but it just seems it feels like a big rebound week for one of Fleetwood, Fitzpatrick, Morikawa, or Homa Steve. Like one of those guys, I feel everyone's just kind of written them off like, oh, they're not going to contend at majors. Their game is completely off. One of them is going to show up this week and be like, oh, and then everyone's going to be on them for next week and they're going to miss the cut or something.
That's it. Those are the kind of players that you will see in contention this week. It's players that are trying to find something. They're not tinkering. I mean, Tommy seems to be finding his game. He hasn't joined all the dots together at all. I could see Tommy going well this week. Fitzpatrick had a decent tee to green outing at the Players last time out. Ben Arn has been added to the Augusta field through his top 50 in the world ranking. So Arn is definitely playing next week at Augusta National. But yes, though, when we have seen players do well the week before the Masters, it has been in the past. For example, JB Holmes, he won at 28 to 1 when they played at the Houston Open the week before. We've had a Russell Henley win at 40 to 1. Ian Poulter, of course, won the week before at Houston. He beat
Bo Hostler.
Was it Bo Hostler? Yeah, Bo Hostler, of course. I know you remember that one. I know you do. Sorry to bring that one up. But yeah, you do get these players that are trying to find something. It could be Max Homa trying to find something to take forward to Augusta. And, the fact that it's the Valero Texas, it could be any golf course. They're just trying to find some form, just trying to find some background to it. But yeah, Tommy Fleetwood, of course, as we know, someone like a Grayson Murray's got more PGA Tour victories than poor old Tommy boy. So I don't tend to back him that regularly when he's playing in the United States, it has to be said.
Outright bets for the week, the ones that I'm officially in on. I mean, I'm in on Hideki. I'm just waiting to see what the best number that I can get is. I'm seeing a 21 as of this moment. I'm guessing I can get up to 25 by the time it comes around, the fact that he's already dropped. So Hideki, I'm going to be in on. I've bet Harris English at 45 to 1, and I bet Nikolai Højgaard at 90 to 1. If he can, for whatever reason, he just lost his driver at this course last year. If he can do everything the same and drive the ball like he's been driving it, I think that he's a legit guy to come out of the clouds here, just based on talent at 90 to 1 seem pretty good for me. And then the ones that I was kind of tinkering around with, and I want to get, I mean, we talked about Batia a little bit, but you kind of hit on a key name here at the end, Steve, was Henley. Why not Henley this week? Why is everyone in on Noren? I mean, I get the case for Horschel because he's playing so well, but it just feels like Henley's a better player than those guys.
Henley seems to have changed character with his game of late. He was always team no putt, wasn't he? Absolutely fantastic with the approach play and with the around the green game. His tee to green game was always spot on. All of a sudden, but he couldn't putt. All of a sudden, he's putting brilliantly, but the tee to green game seems to have degraded. So I don't really know where Russell's at. He's, of course, got a victory in Texas at the Houston Open in the past. So his price this week for Russell Henley, who I constantly talk about being particularly undervalued, I'm currently seeing a 50 to 1 at Bet365 on Russell Henley, which for me is a kind of price we don't usually see. I do like Harris English. I think Harris English is a proper danger this week. I have to say. At the same price point, I kind of went for Billy Horschel. I'm with Matt. I do think Billy's in for a big week. The one that worries me is definitely Harris English, whose tee to green game at the moment is excellent, and the fact that he hasn't won for quite a period of time. I think one of those sort of top 50 in the world players. When you look at history, like Jordan Spieth a few years ago, he hadn't won for ages, came here and smashed it at 16 to 1. English is the sort that would come, that's been playing reasonably well this year, going back up in the world rankings and just desperate for a victory. He won't be thinking of Augusta next week. He's, to add a fifth PGA Tour victory at Valero would be something that's certainly on his radar. So yeah, I do like English. But yeah, Russell Henley, 50-1. There's probably worse bets out there for sure.
I took DJ at 15-1 and Paul Casey at 27-1 as outright bets for LIV Miami, Matt. So, but beyond Billy Horschel and Bryson, who I assume you've bet on LIV Miami, what other outrights do you have this week?
So for LIV, I got Bryson at 11-1. I took Patrick Reed at 45-1 because of his history at Doral, and last year, he kind of came into that LIV Florida event not in great form, and he finished fourth there going to the Masters. So I think time of year for Reed is a good one. He finished fourth at the International Series Macau, which is a much different course than Doral, but I do think there's the type of year when he kind of brings it. So I got Bryson 10, I got Reed 45, and then I got Bubba Watson I got like 150. He's down to 90 or 100 now, but his history at Doral is just incredible. So those are my three for LIV. My picks on the PGA Tour are very similar to Steve, so we're both gonna have a great week. We're both gonna have a poor week. But I got Ludwig 13-1. Billy, I got at 45. I'm gonna take the plunge in Akshay because I can't miss at 60. And then I got those two long shots, Ryan Moore. I got an early 180, and I got Charlie Hoffman 200.
Yeah, you can get Akshay 65, Bet365 enhanced win right now if you do want to go take that. I think I'm going to hop on that one too and just have my four guys and then throw a few bombs because I feel like it would be irresponsible, Matt, this year not to take a few flyers at like 200-1 based on what's been happening.
You got to take Ryan Moore now after the argument that me and Steve made.
I don't know. See, it's funny because he rates out great for me too. It's just like I'm not going to fucking back Ryan Moore. I'm just not doing it. So of course he's going to win.
You know what's going to happen, chaps. He'll be in contention on Sunday and he'll finish in a tie for 9th or a tie for 8th with 4 other people.
And then you'll get your
just Ryan Moore.
Yeah, you'll get your chopped each way. That's why I was so happy that Scotty was, not only did David Skins bogey the final hole in Houston, Scotty didn't make the putt to keep him at -11. So we went from having a 3 for 6 top 5 each way to a 5 for 6 top 5 each way, which really helped out the Taylor Moore odds. It didn't cut them as much as I want, so I look out good for that. But yeah, in the top 8 market for sure, there's gonna be like 4 guys tied for 8th with Ryan Moore or something. It'll just absolutely crush your odds. It happens every time, Steve.
Absolutely. We've done this for many years. That's what tends to happen. I'll tell you a player that I will throw out there, and shoot me down. I'm sure plenty will. I think there's a player that's playing slightly better under the radar than the results that they're actually producing. CT Pan, and I'm seeing Pan at 200-1 this week. You think he was 3rd place in Mexico. He then went to the Cognizant Classic, was 6th and 9th after 36 and 54 holes, finished 28th. And then last time out of the Players, he was 10th after 36, 12th after 54 holes, and eventually finished 42nd after 76. But Pan, I think plotters this week, players that can hit the ball straight, not overly long, but Pan's actually surprisingly long off the tee, does hit it straight. I don't know. There might be something with CT Pan. He's playing better golf than his results are actually suggesting. I don't know if he's carrying an injury either. He seemed to I think he was meant to play Valspar, and then there was a late WD on like the Tuesday before the event started on the Thursday. But CT Pan's just that's one that's been at the back of my mind all week. Might be something just to look at, be that an each way punt at a big price or some kind of top 20, top 40 angle.
I think even like a top 10 on CT Pan, just looking at the way that his results have been going. And I remember when he returned from injury last year, I think it was at the Heritage. He had missed, the better part of 5 months or so with a wrist injury, and it was like he did nothing there. And then he went to Wells Fargo, and it was like, yeah, well, he's not going to compete at Quail Hollow, so like, don't worry about that. But he had just been like really bad, and then he just popped out of nowhere in Texas at the Byron Nelson.
That's right.
And then he
That's
did it
right.
again the next week at a like kind of similar style course, weirdly enough, in Canada at Feinberg's course, his home course. So he had those back-to-back top 5 finishes. Then he kind of went away again until the swing season. He pops up at Sanderson Farms with the top 10 finish. He said in Mexico. And the common link amongst those, which is really strange, is that and we saw it at the Players too. He spiked with 7.5 strokes gained tee to green, 7 in Mexico, 6 at Sanderson Farms, 9 at the Canadian Open, 9 at the Byron Nelson. That when he gets it together, it's weird. It's like Bhatia in a weird way. That if you can see that he has it going early, it seems like he continues that for the entire tournament. But if he doesn't have it off like 3 holes in, you're absolutely fucked.
Yeah. Oh, you know within the first 4 or 5 holes of Thursday what's going to happen with that bet. But yeah, Pan, he's just one that's bubbling away there. That's not dissimilar to JJ Spawn's kind of form for a few years ago. Nothing in your face, nothing really, really in your face. And JJ Spawn, took this out at 200 to 1. So yeah, CT Pan, potential angle there, I think.
Yeah, the other one, like from way down the list, Matt, was Andrew Novak. This was the site of his first ever career top 10 a year ago. And like he's either miscut or playing great golf. It's one of the two.
Yeah, I always envisioned him as a Florida guy. So you're definitely right about that Texas star too. He's definitely a boomer bust guy, and I completely agree with Pat's sentiment on CT Pan. It's like if you're going to bet him, you might as well risk less and bet that top 5 or top 10 and hope he completely spikes because he's not the guy who kind of lingers around that top 20. I like the Pan play this week. And Novak makes sense. And the other guy I was looking at was KH Lee, who's won twice in Texas, and his ball striking numbers the past 7 rounds have been really, really good. He's hitting the ball well. He's a guy who can kind of spike and win as well if he has the game that week.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to look up was who just like putts really well at this course. Because I find if you're like trying to dig deep that, if you can just latch on to one thing, like we talked about, CT Pan can spike tee to green, and that can really go a long way at this course. So if we just isolate by TPC San Antonio, the Oaks course, past 12 rounds, average per round putting, Montgomery, Sam Stevens, Nicholas Echeverria, who had some nice run through the Florida swing, Troy Merritt, Hayden Buckley, Cooch, obviously, Aaron Rye in 8 rounds gains almost a stroke per round on the greens. Imagine if he could just gain a stroke per round on the greens everywhere, he'd have 25 wins.
That'd be scary, yeah.
So maybe it's finally a week for me to plunge. I've been avoiding Aaron Rye like the plague, Matt. Maybe now is the time and try to pull a Jagger on people.
I'm going to continue avoiding him like the plague. I'm not an Aaron Rye guy. It doesn't do it for me. But maybe this might help you pull the trigger on Akshay, which you seem very close to doing. He led the field last week in fairways gained, which I thought was crazy. How long he hit it. Yeah.
65 to 1 added to the card. You can find that. You can find Akshay in the newsletter written up at 65 to 1, released on Wednesday evening. So go subscribe to that for free down in the description right now, or just search Mayo Media on Substack. Get it sent right to you, and we got a ton of great content. And if you're in the Vegas area over Masters, Feinberg and I are going to be there from Wednesday to Monday during Masters Week. We're going to be doing some live watch-alongs at the Circus Swim outside. I hear it's going to be very nice. It's starting to get nice where I'm at, so I'm looking forward to like wearing shorts outside. You can come, see my legs, I suppose, and hang out with us at the Circus Swim. Don't look at my legs. Please don't do that. There's a reason that you can only see from here down on me, all right? Matt, where can everyone find your work this week if they want to continue to tell? I know you need to set up the Vincenzi tracker so you can get the bets as soon as they come out. But if you've missed it, where can they find it?
Yeah, that's great. Golf WRX is where I write everything. In addition to the betting stuff, I have the daily news stuff. Might have a new show coming out on there, so keep an eye out for that. I also have on the Tap It In podcast every single week. You can find that on YouTube or on X. So thank you,
Steve. I know that you've already started all of your Masters prep, and you have some of the best early majors content for every single major. So tell people not only when that's going to drop, but where they can find it.
That's very kind of you. Thank you, Pat. Golf Betting System is our website. There we do major previews. I'll be writing up the one for Valhalla in the next couple of weeks. Content this week, Golf Betting System podcast came out today, which is Tuesday. That's a weekly podcast that we do. There will also be a Masters research pod this Thursday, which will be the 4th of April. Golf Betting System. You can follow me on X as well at Bamford Golf.
All right. You can follow me at the PME. Go to Underdog Fantasy right now. Use code Mayo. Get a deposit match of up to $100. Join me in the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. That will drop as soon as the tee times drop on Tuesday. There's only 500 spots. It's rake free, so you may as well get into that. Then we got to fill the Albatross, the major season best ball draft. You got to draft guys, and the only rounds that count are the rounds at the majors. Fill out your team of 10. There's $50K to first place. So again, if you don't have an Underdog account, use code Mayo, deposit $100, get $200. You're already a winner. And then, go play in the $10 Albatross. Try to turn it into $50K. Sounds easy, because it is. All right? Code Mayo at UnderdogFantasy.com. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!